What's happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr., Courtney Robert Brown Jr. in the house back here at Big Boss Filmworks. Happy 2022. As always, God is in the blessing business. We're happy to be here, excited about the year coming up. Got my brother and partner here, Lou. How you doing, Lou?
What's up, fam?
Shout out to everybody out there. The support that the family out there gave us in 2021, we are really humbled by. Again, we got some hot stuff going on, working with some local people trying to get our short game as far as doing some short content. Theatrical, obviously the negotiations for the big screen thing continues. That is catching the whale, so it does take a minute to reel that whale in. The pod is expanding. You know, we got a list of local, notorious, and infamous, and just good people who are going to grace our presence with themselves. We got Big 50. We got some of the people from the PA crew. Just a lot of hot content coming up, and we continue to do what we say we do, which is to tell the story of those who've been in the struggle, how it affects our communities, and all of the above. But with that all said and done, me and Lou were talking off camera a couple of weeks ago, and we thought we had done this story, but we really had not. So I think you guys might find it kind of interesting. And those who've followed our story, and me, shout out to my brother over there, Real True Street Crimes, Eddie Baby at Instagram, Eddie Jackson Jr. at Real True Street Crimes, Uncle Butch, the whole team. Obviously, shout out to Pops, the field marshal, and when we be talking, it's so many little coincidences and incidences, people whose actions ended up setting off dominoes that affected how numerous people's lives played out. And one of those was a guy by the name, he was a federal parole officer by the name of Mr. Smith. I won't put his first name out there. Literally, that was his last name, though, was Smith. As I recall, he was an African-American brother, heavyset guy. At this time, Officer Smith must have been in his late 30s. So because I would see him when he would come over to do the interviews for the old man. And this is the end of 91, 92. So what has gone on, for those who kind of follow us or don't, then you got to go back in our library to kind of really get the full story. The old man had been violated in 1989 on a pistols charge. That's right at the end of what we've characterized as the Bahamas run. He was doing some stuff with a guy named Mr. B, some big stuff coming out of the Bahamas. That whole situation, it got compromised. It's typical stuff. Somebody started talking, severed the relationship, caused for the old man's home to get raided over on West 6 Mile. So they don't find any drugs or anything, but they do find a gun. So this is, again, the end of 89 when they raid his place on 6 Mile, and they find this gun. Well, he's still on parole from the original case with Eddie and the 32-man indictment case from the 70s. So he gets violated. The judge gives him 18 months. He does the 18 months in Springfield, Missouri. So two things happen in because of this gun violation, besides obviously him having to do the 18 months. He goes to Springfield, Missouri, which he runs into a gentleman by the name of Ota, who is a Nigerian gentleman who you need to look at, go in our library and look at the Nigerian connection to kind of see how that introduction that happened played out. And then secondly, he has to do the 18 months. So he meets Ota, he's doing the 18 months, actually misses the whole shit show that starts from this broad who starts telling on everybody involved in this Caribbean connection thing. So anyway, he gets violated. He comes home after 18 months. He does his 18 months. Shortly right there after he comes home, he hooks up with Ota. He's doing his thing, so he's starting to do his thing with the Nigerians. And subsequently, maybe 6 months after he starts helping out the Nigerians, and they're doing quite well together, he gets the famous call from his friend Muhammad, who he had done time with, the Pakistani, which puts into play what we call the Pakistani plug. That's in 92, the thing that starts off with Pops and the crew going to get the 10 bricks out of Chicago, leads to the run from 92 to 97. But right at this point, when the Nigerian thing is going on and the Pakistani plug thing is cranking up, he is still on federal parole. So his parole officer is this guy, Mr. Smith, who has to come by every month to check on him. Well, the streets start to buzz right after Pops and the crew shoot that move to Chicago, and they get the 10 bricks. Because those who know, Pops never dealt with the whole world. It was always kind of a friends and family, and Pop's old school like that. He kind of was one of those, if I didn't do time with you, I don't do crime with you kind of guys. So really, throughout his whole run, it's why he was able to have a 4-decade career, because if he didn't do time with you, he wasn't likely going to do crime with you. And if you wasn't family, those are the only people that could ever really get close to the old man, were people that he had did time with, or people that were related to him by blood or by marriage. So that said, though, but the streets start talking. You can't bring in 10 bricks untouched and start making some moves without at least whispers starting to go around the street that Courtney back on, he got a big bag. So the feds got their informants out there, and it gets back to them that Courtney Brown has got a bag in, and it all happened. Luckily for us, it had all happened so quick. There was no backstory at that time to where the bag had come from. There was just whispers in the streets that Courtney Brown back on, he got a big bag, and it's right, and he's doing some things. So the feds approach Officer Smith, and we know this because Officer Smith actually ends up sharing this information with us. They go to Officer Smith and tell him, basically this was the DEA. They tell Officer Smith that they want him to violate Courtney Brown Sr. And Officer Smith asks them, okay, well, what do you got? And they say that their sources tell them that Mr. Brown is supplying half the city of Detroit with heroin out of his home on West McNichols, on West 6 Mile. And Officer Smith is like, okay, so, but what do you got? What's the surveillance? Who's been arrested? Who's on record saying this? And they kept just saying, well, no, our sources tell us. And he tells the DEA, look, I'm not going to violate this man and ruin his life based upon hearsay and rumors. And so he asks the feds, he goes, well, as far as I know, Mr. Brown lives in a 3-bedroom home on West McNichols. Is that what you got? And they're like, yep. And he's like, and as far as I know, when I see him and what he tells me his vehicle is, he's driving a 1991 Nova. Is that the same information you guys got? And the feds are like, yeah. So he's like, so what you're telling me is that this guy who lives in a 3-bedroom apartment on West McNichols and is driving a 1991 Nova is supplying half the city of Detroit. And the feds are like, yeah, basically that's what we're telling you. I know it doesn't seem logical or possible, but that's what our sources tell us. Basically, Officer Smith is like, you know what, you guys got to do better than that. Next time the old man comes in to report, he tells the old man, he says, look, man, your friends, the authorities came by and they wanted me to violate you, but they've got nothing on you. And he tells him, he says, you got 6 more months on probation or parole with me. Whatever you're doing it very well. Mr. Brown, you have a PhD in life, and I'm just not going to do that to you. So that's just a lesson. Again, this was a guy who we did not pay him. It wasn't no bribery. It wasn't no slick shit. It wasn't no street thing. This was just a guy who took his job and himself serious enough that he didn't just fuck over brothers or just be on the strings of the authorities to try to get some brownie points. He stuck to his guns, and I look back on it. That had a huge impact on a lot of people's life, because if he does violate the old man right at that point in '92, who knows how the rest of the story ends up playing out. So shout out to the one good Fed out there. I'm sure he's retired now, getting his pension. You know who you are. Parole Officer Smith, just a good, solid man. Another lesson in life on that, too, The old man staying so low profile and off the radar really gave him the longevity that he did. Still end up having to sit down. As Schoolyard George used to always say, we all going to end up in the jailhouse getting all this money. But, yeah, shout out to Officer Smith, the one good Fed out there. So That's your man, CRB Jr., Big Boss Filmworks. Make sure you guys are hitting the like, share, and subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Love you. 2022, it's going down. Holla at you, man.